Hello and welcome everybody joining. I think we'll give things about a minute just to let other folks join. Here we go. See some folks coming in. We're at about, I think we've got enough mass to get going. So hello and welcome to today's webinar on multifamily energy efficiency and electrification program opportunities. As you can see, we're going to be hearing from 8 speakers total today. It's quite a packed agenda, so I think I'll get right into things. Don't worry if you have a colleague who might be joining late or something, there will be a recording of this made available later. So I'm just going to launch right into things. So welcome, my name is Joshua Niederhood. I work at TRC on the PG&E single point of contact service. I'll give a little explanation of what that's about in my section coming up here. And then we will hear from 7 different program representatives. So the ESA Multifamily Energy Savings Program, the Low Income Weatherization Program, SOMAH, BAMBE, California Energy Smart Homes, Tech Clean California, and GoGreen Financing. And then we'll have some time for a couple Q&A questions and kind of walk you through maybe some good ideas for next steps. So that's an overview of how things will go today. But before we get into talking too much about us, I want to learn a little bit more about who is attending today. So if we can launch a quick poll to get a better idea of what kind of organization the folks in the audience are representing. So public housing authorities, developers, property owners, property managers, contractors, consultants, community-based organizations, utility or program administrators, or other. We'll just give it about 30 seconds for folks to get their answers in here. And just choose whatever is maybe the best fit if you're on the fence about 2 options. All right, I think maybe just 10 more seconds. All right, Leslie, you want to show the results? Okay, great. So some property owners around, contractors, love to see one of you representing that. And then, yeah, a lot of folks kind of in a consultant space, maybe working with property owners. So hopefully we'll get a couple more property owners directly joining later. But we definitely want to make sure you're all equipped and aware of whatever programs are out there and how to speak about those and how to point folks towards. Oh, I'm so sorry. I might not be sharing my screen right now. Am I still sharing it?
You are, yeah.
Okay, good.
You can see your agenda.
Sorry about that. Cool. And so, yeah, as mentioned, I am at the PG&E single point of contact service. We've been available, or SPOC, we've been available in PG&E territory since 2017. We help multifamily customers and stakeholders identify current program and financing offerings for energy efficiency upgrades, electrification, renewable energy, water conservation, demand response, and air quality. Just really trying to turn over any couch cushions to find money that might help with these multifamily projects. So customers can learn about their options either by talking with our SPOC staff directly over the phone or email or sending in contact forms. Or increasingly, we're trying to make a lot of resources available on our website, pgemultifamily.com, for folks to make their own like self-driven decisions if they want to do things that way. So our SPOC team, our goal is to keep up with the changing program landscape so that project teams don't have to spend so much time trying to understand it themselves. So we really work to check in regularly with all the programs represented today, along with a couple dozen others. Make sure that they're talking to each other when possible, so that their offerings can be more streamlined and a more cohesive, non-conflicting offerings for the customers to go through. And then we try to let program teams know about how responses we're getting from these project teams about how programs can improve in the future. So And then when projects kind of wrap up through one program, we'll take a look and we'll be able to help find other opportunities. So another thing that we launched last year is a referral tool on our website. So that's another way that project teams can just plug in a zip code and see what types of programs are available in their location. So that could be a good first step to just see what's out there, what's available, filtering based on program type like electrification, renewable energy, energy efficiency, energy storage, design assistance, or EV charging. A lot of different options to filter by there, as well as project type, whether you're looking at retrofitting an existing building or building new construction, and then also whether or not the programs are income qualified. And once you see the results that you want, you can always get in touch with our SPOC team to learn more and get a copy of those results sent to you, get in touch with our team to kind of walk you through the best next steps to take. In addition to our usual work of trying to find the best fit program for a customer, the SPOC team tries to provide support as a one-stop model. So we offer benchmarking for your properties that might not be going through a program and getting benchmarking that way. So you can really get an idea of your portfolio's whole, your demand, energy usage across the whole portfolio and which properties you might want to prioritize. We've done a handful of properties already. We're ready to definitely do a lot more. We try to educate customers about how to layer programs, what kind of strategies you might want to pursue for programs with different funding sources that you might be able to stack together. And in addition to the 7 programs you'll hear from today, we are aware of dozens and dozens of programs available offered by local community choice aggregators, possibly like around in the Bay Area. If you have a BAMBE project, you might want to, we can help figure out if there's additional opportunities through community choice aggregators like MCE or Sonoma Clean Power, Peninsula Clean Energy. If you're in a different part of the state, we'll find the local opportunities there. Together with being aware of a few kind of one-off rebates from water districts or air quality management districts, it's a total of over 400 opportunities we're aware of across the state. So we're really trying to keep a comprehensive view of what might be out there to help your project. And then finally, once program participants have estimates of what incentives they expect to get from the programs, we can help recommend financing offerings to fill in the funding gaps. So we're actively monitoring new products being offered by iBank, coordinating with the GoGreen program, which you'll be hearing about later. And yeah, just really trying to be aware of all the opportunities out there. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Alyssa to discuss the Multifamily Energy Savings Program, which is one of the more recently revamped programs that we
Thank you,
send projects
Joshua.
to. Yeah.
Wonderful. Alyssa Tambone here. A pleasure to be speaking with you today. I'm the Senior Manager of Customer Acquisition Strategy for the ESA Multifamily Energy Savings Program. Say that 3 times fast. So the ESA Multifamily Energy Savings Program, ESA has been around for over 15 years. We are on a newer iteration of the program with expanded offerings. You may have been familiar with ESA CAM, focused on common area. The program launched over a year ago now. With ESA Multifamily Energy Savings focuses on common area as well as in-unit, reduce cost and no cost energy efficiency and electrification upgrades, along with complementary project assistance to help affordable housing communities within the state of California and their residents reduce costs, save money, and have a better overall quality of life through safety and comfort upgrades. So this program, this iteration, will be available through December 2026. We are accepting applications now. Next slide, please. So a little bit in terms of eligibility of the program, we're looking at existing properties for ESA Multifamily Energy Savings. We do upgrades on equipment that is at least 5 years old thinking that really, wanting to have the greatest impact in helping reduce GHG, helping you meet energy sustainability goals, and the like. We also focus on properties with 5 or more units that are served with electric or natural gas from one of the independently owned utilities in the state or one of the community choice aggregators, the CCAs. Our incentive covers both deed and non-deed restricted properties, with non-deed restricted properties being new to this iteration of the program. And in-unit measures, regardless of whether a regulatory agreement is in place for the property in aggregate or not, in-unit measures are covered at 100%, regardless of that deed status. Our income thresholds are really focused on helping those that are most vulnerable within our population. So those income thresholds for this particular program are at 250% of the federal poverty guidelines based on household size and income. Next slide, please. There are some different qualifications for deed versus non-deed restricted. So those properties that have a regulatory agreement in place are financed with low-income housing tax credits, have tax-exempt mortgage revenue or general obligation bonds, as well as local, state, or federal loans or grants, have a regulatory agreement in place. At 65% of households with those regulatory agreements in place, properties have to have income levels at or below 250% of federal poverty guidelines. For non-deed restricted, those that are natural occurring affordable housing or NOAA, the requirements are slightly greater, with 80% of residents having to have incomes at or below 250% of federal poverty guidelines. Regardless of deed restriction status, though, however, all in-units eligible for the program meeting the income thresholds are eligible for upgrades at 100% of cost covered. So that's something to keep in mind. Also, for non-deed restricted, there is a 50% copay for common area project costs, whereas deed restricted properties are eligible for up to 100% of common area projects cost being covered by the program. Next slide. Here are just a few examples of some of the ongoing savings that our folks that have participated in our program have realized over the years. $12,000 in annual savings, $3,500, almost $60,000 in upgrades for Wood Creek Terrace, plus those ongoing energy savings through efficiency offerings, make this a really great program for those that are looking to save money, reduce their bottom line, and help their residents have a better quality of life through safety and health and comfort measures that we can put into place. Next slide. So now I'm going to turn it over to LIWP to discuss how the low income weatherization program can help you as well. Thank you so much.
All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Brianna Sparling. I'm a technical associate from the Association for Energy Affordability, and I work on the LIWP program. So excited to tell you guys about LIWP today. LIWP stands for the Low Income Weatherization Program, and we offer statewide energy rebates, for affordable multifamily homes for energy efficiency measures, electrification, and solar PV. In addition to just offering financial incentives, LIWP also includes property assessments, scope of work development throughout the course of the project, along with construction management assistance. And then once a project is completed, construction, we offer quality control and energy benchmarking to make sure that a project has hit its energy targets in terms of savings. All of our measures are based off of greenhouse gas reductions. So the incentives, that's how they are calculated, is based just straight up off of the reductions from greenhouse gases. And you can truly think of LIWP as we can incentivize anything that will reduce greenhouse gases and save energy. So for the PV side of things, PV incentives are based off of the size of the solar system, and we can pursue a solar project under LIWP after the completion of an energy efficiency project. Next slide. Here is the eligibility criteria for participation in LIWP. You must have a building that has at least 5 units, and if one building on the property does not have 5 units, the property must have a total of at least 20 units to participate. We also require that properties have a deed restriction and that at least 66% of tenants have an AMI below 80%. We have to be able to achieve at least 15% energy savings. LIWP really is a whole building approach. We aim to do big measures and small to make sure that we're upgrading the total efficiency of a building. And if we're leveraging multiple incentive sources in addition to LIWP, we require a bit higher of a savings threshold at 25%, and that includes tax credits. To participate in LIWP, you have to sign an affordability covenant, just ensuring that you will maintain affordability for at least 10 years after the LIWP project is completed. And our incentives can't exceed the total cost of the project. And each owner can apply for a maximum of 1,500 units. Next slide. All right, just to drill a little bit more into co-leveraging with LIWP, we truly incentivize or encourage our property owners to leverage as many incentive sources as possible in addition to LIWP. So not only do we offer technical assistance, but also referrals to other EE, electrification, and solar programs with LIWP, and we can co-leverage with, I put most here, but I truly have yet to see a program that we won't co-leverage with at this point. So again, total incentives can't exceed the total project cost, and that's going to include incentives that come from other sources outside of just LIWP. And we need to hit that at least 25% savings threshold. Next slide. This is the short list of the couple of measures that we do require for participation with LIWP. We require that all water fixtures, aerators, and shower heads are upgraded to low flow, that all heating and cooling systems that have ductwork complete duct sealing, and that all lighting is upgraded to LED, and that any refrigerator manufactured prior to 1999 or above 750 kilowatt hours annually is replaced. So just a couple of requirements there. And then on the next slide, we have a fairly comprehensive list of all of the measures that we will incentivize under LIWP. But again, I would truly just think of this as anything that's going to save energy, we will incentivize, including electrification measures as well. So this isn't exhaustive, but gives you some good insight into what we try to help buildings do. To get into this a little bit more, let's go to the next slide and look at 2 projects. So this first project that I have here is a recently completed project in downtown San Francisco in the Tenderloin area, comprised of 55 studio apartments. The scope of work, it was replacing a boiler system with a central heat pump water heating system, so an electrification measure that we also paired with variable speed recirculation controls and the replacement of all the refrigerators in the building for energy efficiency measures. I saw a question in the chat about leveraging with other programs, and here is a really good example of where LIWP can leverage with other programs. So this program, we paired LIWP with also BAMBE and tech, and we were able to cost cover the scope of work that's listed on the left there, or sorry, right. Next slide. All right, so here's the second project, bigger scope of work. This is one I'm currently working on in Southern California. It's comprised of 4 buildings and 46 studio apartments, so a scattered project. And again, fairly comprehensive scope of work. So we did LED lighting, low flow water fixtures, split ductless heat pump HVAC replacements for wall heaters, and heat pump water heating install, along with pipe insulation, variable speed controls, replacing the gas stoves to induction stoves, and replacing gas dryers to electric dryers. And then same deal here. This project was able to leverage 4 programs to get the project listed on the right, totally cost covered as well. So yeah, next slide. Here's some contact information. If you're interested in LIWP or have any questions, please reach out. We'd love to chat with you.
Thank you so much, Brianna. And we'll be also sharing a way to get in touch afterwards. And if you ever we go past the contact info too quickly, you can always contact us at the SPOC service and we'll get you in touch with the relevant program staff. So after you get your property retrofitted through LIWP and or ESA, and you're thinking about adding solar, this is another great option for affordable projects, the SOMAH program. So let's hear a little bit more about that.
Thanks, Joshua.
Mhm.
Hey everyone, my name is Joyce Tang, and I am a program coordinator with the Solar on Multifamily Affordable Housing, or SOMAH program. Wanted to quickly mention that I also have Victoria Leslie, a program manager, with me on the call today to help answer any questions. So thanks so much, Victoria. But yeah, excited to tell you a little bit more about us today. So SOMAH is a statewide incentive program that provides eligible properties with up to $100 million annually over the course of 12 years, which is the lifetime of the program. If you're curious, it ends in 2032. The incentives are funded by greenhouse gas auction proceeds and not taxpayer dollars. So we're mainly a tenant benefiting program, but we do provide benefits for both property owners and tenants, depending on how your system is set up. And we do have a program goal of installing 300 megawatts by 2032. So definitely still plenty of time and funding before the program sunsets. Thank you for changing the slide. So some benefits of the SOMAH program are that it provides financial incentives that substantially cover a lot of those solar PV costs. I know solar is expensive. We do incentivize anywhere from like 50 to 55%, all the way up to 100, depending on how your system's set up, of the costs. So it helps cover costs of installing, and then also when your when your application is done, it also helps cover some common area electric costs. So not just the tenant units, which I think is a really big selling point for property owners. Both tenants and properties do also receive energy bill savings every month in the form of bill credits from the utility. And I will touch upon this more a little later, but we do provide free technical assistance and support services throughout the lifetime of the program as well. So just looking through this map here, which you can find on our website, if you look up the eligible properties map, you can see that we have almost 4,500 total eligible properties that have over 300,000 affordable housing units that could benefit from solar. And of those, only about 12% have an active or completed SOMAH application. So there's a ton of potential, especially in the PG&E territory, which is that teal bluish color in the middle there. Next slide. So to be eligible for the SOMAH program, your property has to be deed restricted, and the deed restriction, sometimes you hear it called a regulatory agreement, must have at least 10 years remaining on its compliance period, and it must meet one of those following criteria. So it must be either located in a disadvantaged community, it must have 66% of residents at or below 80% of the area median income, or it can be a tribal-owned property or be owned by a public housing authority. Additionally, the property itself must be an existing or retrofit building or mobile home. It must have 5 or more units, and it must be individually metered, so no master metered properties. And finally, it has to be located in one of the 5 investor-owned utilities, so that's PG&E, SCE, SDG&E, Liberty, and PacifiCorp. Next slide. So if you look at this chart here, it shows our incentive rate structure. We did used to have an incentive step down every year, which means that every year our rates would decrease, but we've since gotten rid of that. So these are our highest rates and they will not be decreasing anytime soon. We do pay a certain dollar amount per AC watt with a higher rate for tenant areas than common areas. And if you look at the left two columns, we do take into account whether you're utilizing the investment tax credit or the low income housing tax credit. So if you're utilizing neither of those, you can get those incentive rates at the very top row. If you're utilizing one or the other, you get the incentive rates in the middle two rows. And then if you're utilizing both, you do get those rates listed at the bottom of the table there. And I don't quite have enough time to dive super deeply into this, but if you have questions or you want to learn more, we have a section on our website with plenty of information on incentives and financing, so you can look there for more information and examples. So like I briefly mentioned earlier, I do want to reiterate that we offer no cost, no obligation technical assistance and support services to all program participants throughout the lifetime of the project. That ranges anywhere from solar feasibility before the project even begins, interconnection and application support during the whole process, and any additional support after the project has been completed. So this means that our services are available to all interested SOMAH participants. So not just if you have an application, we're happy to help you, if you don't have one in mind and you're looking for one, if you are already in the application pipeline and you just need help getting in touch with the utility or anything throughout the whole lifetime of the project. So yeah, if you have any questions for our technical assistance team, please feel free to use that QR code at the bottom. It will take you to the technical assistance request form. You can also just type in calsomah.org/TA request and it'll take you to that same form. But from there, someone from our team will reach out to you to discuss your project and how we can help. Next slide. So thank you all for listening. I know that was a lot of information, but we are definitely happy to help. If you think you've got it, feel free to submit an application at calsomah.org. There's an apply button in the upper right-hand corner. If you have any questions or want to schedule an interest call, feel free to reach out to our property owner contacts, Rachel Diaz for nonprofits and Alyssa Golinar for for-profits. And then also feel free to reach out to Victoria and I for any other general program questions. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much, Joyce. Now, a program you've heard mentioned as a good co-leveraging opportunity in the Bay Area, BayREN's BAMBE program, Bay Area Multifamily Building Enhancements program. So let's hear from Natalia about that.
Well, thank you, Joshua. Yeah, I'll be talking about the Bay Area Multifamily Building Enhancement Program led by BayREN. So BayREN, the Bay Area Regional Energy Network, is a collaboration between the 9 Bay Area counties to help the state reach its climate goals through energy-saving programs. So we host multiple energy-saving programs for multifamily, commercial, and single-family properties, and all of them are funded through utility ratepayer funds. So I'll be talking about BayREN's BAMBE program today. You can go to the next slide. So the Bay Area Multifamily Building Enhancement Program, BAMBE for short, supports multifamily property owners through technical assistance and financial support with installing energy-saving retrofits into their property. So this is one of the longest running multifamily retrofit programs in the state, having launched in 2013. And in that time, we completed building upgrades at over 45,000 units across 600 properties throughout the Bay Area, and we also paid over $30 million in direct rebates to property owners. You can go to the next slide. So now I'll actually go into the two key offerings or parts of the BAMBE program. The first is our technical assistance, and the second are those actual cash rebates for installing energy retrofits. So when you enroll into the BAMBE program, you'll be connected with an expert advisor who will conduct a site visit and detailed energy analysis. They will then provide a report with customized recommendations and work with you to build out a scope of work that can meet your goals and needs. They're also a one-stop shop and can make referrals to other programs that you can benefit from, like stacking incentives, as well as referring you to financing opportunities and contractors. And you can go to the next slide. And the second part of our program are those actual rebate incentives for installing different kinds of energy saving upgrades in your property. So we have a comprehensive list of included measures to our program, from hot water appliance upgrades to space heating and cooling, to lighting, to building envelope upgrades. So the base rebate for our program are $500 per unit served. Then we have additional rebate incentive opportunities for properties pursuing electrification, which I'll talk about in the next slide, and then those located in high priority communities. So those high priority areas being where residents face disproportionate risks from air pollution, extreme heat, and struggle with housing affordability. So once you have reserved your rebate reservation with a TA, you will have 12 months to complete an agreed upon scope of work. And if you have not already, you may then choose your own licensed contractor to install the agreed upon scope of work. So rebate incentives are released to the property owner once the project scope is completed. And it's important to note that the BAMBE program cannot offer any rebates for work already installed or purchased. So you really have to work with that TA to develop that project scope. Next slide. And I won't go into detail on this chart for the sake of time, but I just wanted to show some of the potential additional rebate incentives that you can get for installing electrification measures. So the first one up here, you basically get an additional $1,500 per apartment served if your property decided to upgrade to in-unit heat pump water heaters. So we have lists that kind of explain this for our heat and health adders as well. And then you can go to the next slide. So all eligible properties start off with that $500 rebate per unit served. So if you had a 5-unit property, it would be a base rebate of $2,500. And then stacked on top of those base rebates are our geographic and electrification adders. And that's really where you start to see more substantial savings. So our heat and health adders are geographically based, where you can receive an additional $500 per unit served on measures that improve indoor air quality or support cooling. And then we also have this housing burden, and what that multiplier, and what that will do is multiply the total rebate incentive that you have by 1.5 or double it for properties in select geographic locations. Next slide. Next slide.
Yeah, 1 second. I think it froze. There we go.
Great. And then the eligibility to actually enroll into our program, we're pretty flexible in that any residential property in the 9-county Bay Area with 5 or more units is eligible to participate. And then the second part of the requirements to actually reserve those rebate reservations for you is that we're looking for comprehensive projects that include at least 2 property-wide measures that are modeled to reduce a total on-site energy consumption of 10% or more. And again, your technical advisors are really there to support you in figuring out how to hit that 10% and what measures would be best for your property. Next slide. So yeah, to get started into the BAMBE program, there's basically 5 simple steps for the whole program. You enroll online with our interest and eligibility form, which is just at bayren.org. And then a technical advisor or energy consultant will reach out to you to assign you a technical advisor, and they become your point of contact for the whole project. You reserve your rebate with them, and then you go ahead and install those project scopes with any contractor of your choosing. And then a technical advisor will normally come out after an upgrade is installed and just make sure everything is installed correctly, and then they're able to release that rebate via mail via check to a property owner. So next slide. So this is the interest form. You can go to bayren.org/eligibility or just bayren.org/multifamily. Takes maybe 5 to 10 minutes to fill out general information, and someone will reach out to you within 5 days of filling out that form. And here's some contact information if you wanted to follow up or had any questions specifically about your property. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Natalia. We've heard a lot of talk about electrification. So one great program that could be a good fit for a property that's completely electrifying, getting rid of all gas uses and switching to all electric, is the California Energy Smart Homes program. So let's hear a little bit more about that opportunity from Melinda.
Well, thank you. So I'm Melinda Denon. I'm the marketing manager for the California Energy Smart Homes today. I'm joining from our Rancho Cordova office here in Sacramento. I'll start by sharing a little bit about the Energy Smart Homes whole building electrification alteration incentive program. Boy, is that a mouthful. Energy Smart Homes does offer incentives for all electric new construction and the whole building electrification for properties located in one of the 3 California IOU electric territories as seen on the map. So we've got Pacific Gas and Electric, PG&E, SCE, and SDG&E. Multifamily low-rise projects, so up to 3 stories, are eligible for these all-electric incentives with no income restrictions. The program is funded by the CPUC, which is really important to know so we can avoid double dipping with other programs that are funded by the CPUC, which include BAMBE and multifamily energy savings. All right, here I'm sharing the main points of the eligibility for Energy Smart Homes whole building alteration incentives. What's really important for me to share is that all natural gas lines to the enrolled building must be capped. So all the natural gas lines to that enrolled building. I also want to share that you can complete one multifamily low-rise building at a time. We absolutely understand that this is a heavy lift, so let us help you do one building at a time and see how it goes. The program does also require that properties replace all fossil fuel combustion equipment and appliances with advanced electrical systems that I've listed here. But I also want to share that if your property already has existing electric cooking, then we don't require that you make the transition to install induction. You can leave that electric cooking in place. All right, many of you might think that this is the most important information, but I'm also excited to share that our team just learned, but I can't put it in writing yet, that the 2025 incentives will be updated to mirror the 2024 incentives. So look to that 2024 column, and you heard it here first. The program also offers a bonus incentive for properties that install heat pump dryers as opposed to electric dryers. It's not required, but we have a bonus. And there's an optional electrical infrastructure upgrade of up to $600 per multifamily unit. I say up to because we will require receipts for the infrastructure upgrades that can include time and materials from your licensed contractor. All right, I got more money. So next up, we've got the advanced technology bonus incentives for whole building electrification projects. I can share that almost 100% of our multifamily projects that are working with us and requesting reservation letters for 2025 have included at least one of these advanced technology bonuses in their plan. So that really helps support funding and increase the sustainability of their property. This slide shares the alteration participant journey. It just is here to demonstrate it's an easy process and a reminder of the importance of getting those before photos, including the nameplate on the fossil fuel gas-powered old equipment you're replacing. So even if that nameplate on the back is faded, tarnished, and hardly legible, hard word, please get a photo so we can process your incentives. Also, if your multifamily property has many units, we can support with photo sampling so you don't have to get into every unit and get every single photograph. All right, Layering. Layering incentives is so important to maximize funding for your project. And the odds are that you're likely eligible, your project is eligible for more than one program here in California, depending on the program's funding source. And that includes tax credits, grants, and utility rebates. As mentioned, BAREN, or the BAMBE program, and multifamily energy savings do have the same funding source as energy smart homes, which means you cannot layer, but our team is here to help you look at the incentives that are available and make sure you're going with the right program to maximize the incentives for your project. All right. This is my last slide. This is how you can connect with us. We'd be happy to talk to you more about your project and share any additional details. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Melinda. Um, Keeping on the electrification train, let's hear a little bit about Tech Clean California, which is structured a little differently from these other programs. It will help contractors specifically, but it's also rolling out kind of the vehicle for the HERA program too. So a lot going on with tech. So let's hear a little bit more about that from Nick.
Thanks, Joshua. Hi, everyone. Nick Durr from the Association for Energy Affordability. We're the leads on the tech multifamily component of the program, and I'll be covering this portion of the webinar today. So the Tech Clean California is a statewide program really focused on heat pump market transformation. Initially focused on space heating and water heating heat pumps, with the goal to help the state achieve its 2030 goal of 6 million heat pumps throughout the state, and obviously help the state towards its carbon-free homes goal by 2045. There's 3 key pillars in the tech program. One's to just spur the clean heating market through statewide initiatives. So that's incentives, engaging with the supply chain, workforce development, and consumer education. There's also a component of the program that helps to fund pilots. There's been 6 pilots and 19 quick start grants to date. And then also a lot of information being collected and reported to the public, including cost, GHG savings, bill impacts, et cetera. So overall, the goal of the program is to increase market demand and workforce capacity, help the technology increase in maturity, and have positive impacts on projects, and then decrease cost overall via economy of scale and just more familiarity with the products. So to date, there's over 1,000 contractors participating. This is an important element of this program. Contractors have to be enrolled in the program to participate, and these rebates go to the contractors. And then the contractor will reduce their cost to the end use consumer, whether that's a single family household or a multifamily property owner. Over 30,000 single family households have participated to date, and over 10,000 multifamily units across various properties. And a lot of the funds have been spent in equity communities and a lot of downloads for the overall data sets. Next slide, please. So, like Joshua kind of noted, Tech Clean California is kind of an umbrella program that continues to get funded. And each of those funding cycles have, may come from different sources and have unique opportunities, but also rules associated with them. So Tech first launched in late 2021 and had a first and second round that went through the summer of 2023, focused on heat pump water heating, HVAC, and electrical upgrades. Those were fully subscribed. And then beginning about a year ago, and then through the rest of this year, there's been a round of funding focused on heat pump water heating only, both individual heat pump water heaters and apartments, but also central heat pump water heaters. That program's still open, but operating on a wait list, but folks are welcome to apply if they would like and go onto that wait list. And then the new big version of tech is the HERA component of the program that's funded through the Federal Inflation Reduction Act, and I'll talk about that more in upcoming slides. And then there'll be additional rounds of tech in the future, one focused exclusively on small multifamily and heat pump water heaters in those properties. And then sometime next year, another round of funding that's going to look a little bit more like traditional tech around heat pump water heating, HVAC, electrical, and some pilots. Next slide, please. So The big component of the program that's open now is the HERA Phase 1, again, coming from federal monies through the California Energy Commission and then to the Tech Clean California program. And it's exclusively for low to moderate income properties. The heat pumps or the incentives for heat pump HVAC range between $7,500 to $8,000 per heat pump HVAC system. Heat pump water heating incentives range from $700 to, if they're just doing electric resistance to heat pump water heater, and then $1,750 if it's an in-unit heat pump water heater or a central heat pump water heater, central being per unit served. There's also incentives for panel upgrades, new wiring in apartments to accommodate these systems, and also incentives for electric cooking and heat pump dryers. Next slide, please. The key income eligibility requirements for the program, again, it's low and moderate income. So low income properties are those where the property is categorized as below 80% AMI. What that means is that the HERA rebates can be up to 100% of project costs, but cannot exceed $14,000 per unit, and obviously cannot exceed the actual measure counts, the rebates for those measures. To be a low-income property, at least 2/3 of the units need to be below 80% AMI. And those could be documented through a deed restriction or individual tenant income documentation. But that will actually be the tenants themselves needing to submit that documentation. And then the moderate income pathway is where at least 50% of the units are below 150% AMI. The one restriction for that is that the rebates cannot cover more than 50% of the project cost, again, but up to $14,000 per unit, whichever is less. To be eligible for the moderate income pathway, the property needs to be in a disadvantaged community. And then again, the documentation pathways are the same, just at least 50% of the units below 150% AMI, either through a deed restriction or through individual tenant documentation. Next slide, please. So key requirements for this program. Again, one, the contractors themselves need to be enrolled in the program. A big element of this is that any project receiving HERA funds must comply with California Department of Industrial Relations prevailing wage and public works requirements. So those projects and the contractors will need to be set up in DIR, paying prevailing wages, meeting DIR apprenticeship rules, et cetera. All the equipment needs to be ENERGY STAR certified. There's a handful of systems that don't have an ENERGY STAR certification, such as central heat pump water heating, electric panels, and wiring. So there'll be alternative guidelines for those measures. Equipment cannot be purchased or installed prior to the HERA reservation form approval. Existing buildings only. And then there's other requirements that will be shared with properties and participants, such as needing to complete some minimal property assessments, some health and safety verifications, as well as combustion appliance safety testing. Currently, the program is open for stage 1 applications, and that is acting as a type of interest form. And you can access that at that link at the bottom of your slide. And then we're going through those stage 1 applications to confirm program eligibility, and then they'll progress to a formal rebate reservation form. And these funds are able to be leveraged with any other funding source. The only funding source they cannot be leveraged with is the IRA sister program called HOMES, which hasn't launched yet in California. And I think that covers it. Any questions? techmf@aea.us.org.
Awesome. Yeah, here's the email address. Thank you, Nick. And then let's round things out, as I mentioned, by learning a little bit more about one of these financing opportunities that might be able to kind of fill in some of those funding gaps, whatever out-of-pocket costs might be left after the incentives come through. So Jonathan, take it away.
Hello, thank you. My name is Jonathan Verhoof, and I'm here to tell you about the GoGreen Multifamily Energy Financing Program. I work with the California State Treasurer's Office, so this is a state of California program, and we are supported by the states for investor-owned utilities, including PG&E. The way this program works is that we work with participating lenders, and they offer enhanced financing through our program. So they're offering attractive rates and terms for green energy retrofits in small business and affordable multifamily sectors. And as Josh was just saying, the offer of financing makes it easier to say yes to an installation by removing that barrier of upfront capital. And also it makes it easier to say yes to a larger, more comprehensive project. And because we're working with private lenders, there are other useful features as well, such as that most of our lenders offer some form of pre-funding or progress payments so that funding can be released at the beginning to order equipment before installation. Next slide. So we have a few different ways to qualify, but the program overall, as I said, is for green energy retrofits. And that means energy efficiency, demand response, clean energy generation, and storage. We don't have any restrictions on common area versus in-unit. Both can qualify. We have an on-bill repayment feature that I'll touch on subsequently. That requires a master metered property. And we have qualifications for market rate and NOAAs, which is you need to qualify through our small business program. And that means that the financing customer must meet one of these two definitions, either 100 or fewer employees, or meet the SBA definition of small medium business, which is 34 million. And that means the financing customer needs to meet one of those two definitions. So if the customer is, for example, a property management company or a real estate investor or something like that, if they have 100 or fewer employees, that can qualify as a small medium business for market rate or NOAAs. For affordable multifamily, we define it by the property, not by the customer. So the property needs to have a recorded affordability deed restriction or covenant with at least 5 years remaining. And then the occupancy of the units, at least 50%, need to meet HCD's definition of moderate income, 120% or less of AMI. And that is a requirement on the deed or covenant. We don't actually verify tenant income, so we just need the units to be restricted to qualify for the program. And again, if it's affordable multifamily that meets this definition, then the financing customer does not need to meet the definition of small medium business. Slide. Because we are operating through private capital, we have a lot of flexibility in what can be qualified to be installed through this program. A few examples include air conditioning, heat pumps, insulation, windows, cool roofs, solar, batteries. If it saves energy, we can probably qualify it through this program. And through these installations also include the cost of the associated costs, soft costs, such as, if there's code required repairs to do the installation, or, there's permits, or, the contractor needs to rent a lift. Whatever the costs are that are associated with these measures get folded into that enhanced financing. And in addition, we can also offer some enhanced financing for other property improvements. So if you want to do a remodel or landscaping or put in playground equipment, that could be folded in up to 30% of the enhanced financing can be for other property improvements. Next slide. As I mentioned, we have clean energy generation and storage as well. This is something we recently added. So solar panels, hot water, battery storage, microgrids. Again, we have a lot of flexibility in what we can qualify for financing through this program. Next slide. And through our program, lenders are offering a variety of financing products with improved rates and terms. So we're seeing reduced interest rates, longer repayment periods, larger financed amounts, maximums are qualifying through this program. And also we have a broader credit window as well. So shorter years in business or broader approvals based on income or credit score. So the point of the program is to facilitate this financing by making it easier for customers to say yes and easier for customers to get qualified for financing. Next slide. We've got a variety of financing offerings. We've got some lenders who are offering very fast approvals. We've got some who are offering 95% pre-funding up front to make it very easy to get that installation done. We have loans, leases, we have energy service agreements, and we are currently working to recruit CDFIs and credit unions who are lending in the affordable multifamily space as well. Next slide. I mentioned on-bill repayment. That means that the financing upgrade can be repaid through the customer's utility bill. That's available for master metered properties only. Next slide. And I wanted to touch on, our program is agnostic to all of these various incentives that we heard about today. You can definitely use them with our program. It's not required. However, we are working with a coalition, including iBank, Sustento Group, and Sure, to put together what we're calling a storefront model, offering a handful of pre-assembled funding and financing offerings. So that would include our financing, rebates and incentives, tax credits, all being folded together for the customer in order to make it easier for the customer to say yes to an installation through a combined funding offering. And next slide. We can share this later, but next slide, please. Okay, and this is my contact information, Jonathan Verhoof. Also at the bottom, you can see our website, gogreenfinancing.com. That's the big takeaway. So if you go to gogreenfinancing.com, you can find out more and get in touch with us, and we can help you get these kind of upgrades financed. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jonathan. I think we have some time now for a few general questions. So I see there's a couple in the Q&A feature right now. If folks have any other questions that came to mind during these presentations, please feel free to start typing them out and we'll get to them as we can. So a question for Alyssa about the Energy Savings Assistance Program, ESA, Multifamily Energy Savings, asking a previous version of the ESA program only allowed like-for-like replacement, and so they're asking a little bit more information on gas to electric upgrades possible through ESA.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jonathan. Happy to discuss that offline. I'll go ahead and put my email address in the chat, but incentives vary for the ESA Multifamily Energy Savings Program based on climate zone, based on IOU. And so I want to make sure that I have some understanding of and some background information on the specific property or properties of interest so that I can share with you accurate feedback. So I'll drop my email in the chat and that way you have that so you can reach out to me and we can talk.
Great. And we have some folks asking about our contact info. I don't know if we have a way to chat all audience members right now.
Yeah.
It might not be enabled through the Zoom feature. We'll definitely be able to get that information out to you in a follow-up. For now, a great way to get in touch in general is to, again, talk to us on the SPOC team, and we can connect you with whatever programs you might be eligible for or interested in. So I'll leave this up in the meantime. And another question about the slide deck, we will definitely try to make this available as well. Kind of going back to an earlier question that was answered, or that was asked rather, a question about income verification. What are some things that property owners might want to think about for being able to prove that they meet the income thresholds of these different programs? So maybe we can start with Alyssa again, and then let's also hear from the LIWP program, the SOMAH program as well. In case there's
Wonderful.
any differences. Yeah.
Yeah, each program has some nuances. So for ESA multifamily specifically, we're based on 250% of federal poverty guidelines. But for deed restricted properties, so if you have a regulatory agreement in place, it's a self-certified process, meaning we don't require each unit income verification documentation for deed restricted properties with a regulatory agreement in place. That's something that you would want to do on your own, and we have the tools and resources we can provide you so that you can do those calculations to determine eligibility, should you choose, or the program can help you with that if you'd like. But we do require a regulatory agreement for deed restricted. For non-deed restricted, we require unit level income verification, W-2s, pay stubs, things of that nature, if they're available. Some of the properties where we work with, that's not even available, and we'll handle those on a case-by-case basis for the non-deed restricted. So regulatory agreement, copy of the gas and electric bill proving that you're an IOU or CCA customer, and income by the unit level income verification for non-deed restricted properties. I think we're one of the more strict programs in terms of income guidelines or thresholds. Several of the other programs are based on AMI, but turning it over to LIWP to share some of the nuances or differences in comparison to the ESA program requirements.
Yeah, I don't know specifically on the eligibility side of things how the 66% AMI is calculated. If you want to reach out, I can get you in touch with some people who can directly answer that question. But I would say similarly to Alyssa and ESA, the LIWP program does require that deed restriction and affordability covenant. So for the most part, that would cover the 66%. Less than 80% AMI threshold would fit into that requirement as well.
Great. Just gonna touch briefly on a couple things here. So question about SPOC assistance, is it available statewide or just PG&E territory? We are meant to serve PG&E territory, but we recognize a lot of property owners have portfolios across the state. So we're aware generally of what's out there in the other utility territories, and we have counterparts with Southern California Edison, SoCal Gas, San Diego Gas and Electric, so we can also get you in touch with them. Kind of quickly going all around here, maybe just some questions about where programs are eligible. We can definitely, some of these programs today are restricted by utility territory. So again, if you come to the SPOC service, we can help you find out if there's maybe an alternative program available if you're in a municipal utility district instead of one of these investor-owned utilities. And then one good kind of final question about maybe a loading order for programs. So again, at the SPOC team, we're definitely trying to increase collaboration between these programs. We will generally recommend you start with energy efficiency upgrades first, so that if you're doing solar later, you're kind of right-sizing your systems and calculating that load a little bit more effectively. But we're, recognize that sometimes projects pencil out differently. So we're definitely ready to kind of meet the projects where they are and help you figure out how to streamline enrollment in whatever resources are the best fit for your project. So I think with that, we'll kind of wrap things up. So if we didn't get to any of your questions, we'll definitely follow up with you afterwards. But thank you all so much for joining. And again, we'll try to make these resources available afterwards. So thank you all so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.